just want to say that I'm in a good mood right now. I want to say a couple of gratitudes that I think it is necessary. I'm really grateful for this house that I live in, even though this month the price has increased. it's not really that it's not really that crazy, so it's still a comfy house, not gonna lie, bro. And then I want to shout out to my family. And then I love music and art. Shout out to music. Shout out to Mike. Shout out to Earl. Shout out to I can't mention it. I can mention one by one. So today in this, yeah, okay, I think that's enough. I don't know. Today I'm going to continue my practice. So today I'm just I'm di- today I've been dissecting this debate, especially the PM speech, um, which I haven't finished yet actually, and it was, but it was, it's been doing great. It's been going great. I mean, because I think it is necessary for me right now to incorporate um, type of style. I mean to know type of styles and then to incorporate it for my own speech, because sometimes sometimes what I what I do in my when I what I do in my prep time, um I just like, it's very linear. Yeah, yes, I use linear flow as um this website, this amazing website has taught me, but I miss this one, this part. You can see it. No shit, you can see it. I probably will have to just use this. All right. Okay. This one right here. Ugh. I don't give a fuck, man. I don't think no one cares. So, yeah, this one basically. So, what I usually do in my prep time, I just use this style. What is this? Ways, not styles. Yeah, basically that. So there's a root, basically a problem, a root, mechanism, and impact. And I just you know usually wrote it just one one set of this. Like, okay, the problem, and then the mechanism, and then the impact. That's it. That's it. Well, what I want to do right now, I want to try using this style, using this way, like multiple, like one root, but multiple mechanisms and multiple impacts, and each mechanisms and impacts correlate with, I mean, me mechanisms and each impacts correlates with each other. So yeah, that's what I want to do. And from this video, the PM, I think, do that as well. So I haven't really analyzing like completely his speech, but I have jotted down like what he was saying, but I haven't finished yet. So I was in the so he was explaining about the four things. He just said four things. He didn't mention what things are this, like, but it's interesting actually. I have learned, yeah, I have realized that I think I should stop using. I mean, I should like try use this instead. Use this way instead of the first way, like this, like root one, mechanism one, impact one, root two. Like I think it is kind of hard because it is very easy for me to just compile, you know, all of the problems into one sack of problem, and then even though there are so many problems, I want to like compile it, and then and then you know, next as usual create the mechanism one, two, three. Because I don't think it is necessary for me to like, because what is necessary is your impacts should correlate with your mechanisms, right? So that's why we have to like separate each mechanism. And also um, yeah, this is also what I have um, examine. Wait, hold on, I forgot to pronounce that. Examine
Examine.
examine. Oh shit, this is too loud, fucking hell. Examine. All right, so I have examined this video, and then yeah, I think um this is what PM do, the PM of this video in this video do. So opening claims, I don't really give a fuck if you can see it. It's just for me, right? This whole thing, you know, this streaming things is for me to I don't know, to track my progress, I guess, because if I don't do stream, you know, sometimes I just lost, you know. I don't really like in here, like right now I'm, because I'm talking, because I feel like to I have like the obligation to talk because I'm streaming, you know. Because of that I feel like I am more aware, you know, more self-aware, more aware about what I'm doing, you know, so I don't get lost into um you know, into anything. It could be like mindless scrolling, it could be just, you know, doing something except you know, practice. Yeah, so yeah, that's why. So the opening, he said, oh, he claimed some statements in the opening, like our fellow inhabitants have suffered for something that isn't priority, and then he claims that every sentient beings have right to to dignified life, um, and in characterization of animals. Animals can feel pain, either both psychological and physical, um, and because of that, he can feel suffer when animals live in bad environment, and also animals can feel love and connection, you know. So through industrial farming, it can destroy animals' life, and that's why we should battle against it. And then next to the this is interesting as well. I don't know. He said he said about counterfactual, but I don't know what counterfactual fall into this. I don't know what category counterfactual fall. I don't know in what category this counterfactual fall. Um, does it fall into um, you know, like problem, the opening claim, you know, like the problem, mentioning the problem, and characterization is also, yeah, it's on in in opening. Okay, the second is counterfactual. He said that um, oh, it is, I think it is related to problem, I guess, because he explained that um, our current status quo right now, like society it meet because they make because they make society eat meat, okay, and it is a lifestyle choice, because they, consider how much protein they get from a meat, you know, to make a lifestyle, and then in because of this motion, and then this motion that he proposed is um, inc- this motion that he proposed encourages um, people to to have moral choices instead of lifestyle choice, to have moral choice. So the state is like making the citizens have, informed moral choices um, about this, yeah, animals product. So, and then next into the model, yes. First is the model it big, and again I think this is like, okay, this is the end of the problem. This is the problem part, okay. So he claims that our fellow inhabitants have suffered, every sentient being have right to dignified life, and characterization about the animals. um, why should we against it, why should we battle against it, and then the counterfactual, what will happen if the motion is not implemented, you know what will still happen. Now, what will happen if the motion is implemented? I mean, yeah, I think that's it. That's the problem right here. Right here, that's the problem part, you know and the problem also includes um, characterization, claims, and counterfactual. This is the interesting part. So, okay. And then next, I think it is to the, okay, problem and mechanism, right? Second is mechanism. Well, mechanism. So right now, I feel like I am still like fixated to this um, way, to this linear flow, to this, yeah, to this technique, to this structure. Well, the structure is really good though, for real. Even though it is like a basic structure, right? Because in problem you can explain about anything, and in mechanism you can mechanisms, I think, includes like model as well, and model includes scope, something like that. It is like the underlying stuff, like in the structure, and I think it is interesting. It's like a math, even though I'm not really that math guy, actually I hate math, ever since I was in high school. No, ever since I was in elementary school, bro. It, and I realized that at some point, around time in high school, at some point, I realized that my hatred, or my mm, my hate towards math is because it's just because I never have like a good teacher that actually can teach math. Like most of the teachers that uh, I was I was taught were like, how can I say, they're just bad, bro. Like, oh, uh, they 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 were, maybe they are still, um a stereotype for like math teacher. They were like really, I don't know, they're easy to get mad, you know what I mean. Yeah, that's true, bro. Like most of the teacher, like most of the mathematic teachers I was taught by, you know they were all like sensitive people. Like they didn't have patience to to teach students math, you know, and I do not know why they choose to teach math instead of something else, you know. So yeah, that's really that the stereotype is true though. Mathematics teacher are sensitive people. Like they don't have passion, they don't have sympathy, you know. They cannot tolerate people that are you know just different in processing something, you know. Mathematics is a complex subject, right? But if the teacher can make it like fun or like make it like you know at least easy to follow, you know, patient, just a little, just take a you know small step, probably students also like want to participate. And also because of the lack of students participation in class, this thing also triggers teacher to be very sensitive. Like um, in my in my high school, the teacher in my high school, the math teacher that I have um, was mad because there was no participation. Basically, the class was silence, and then he started you know comparing us to like other students in the past, you know, like this is just crazy, like how childish and naive like teacher can be, you know, like that's why I that's why I feel like I don't like teachers, you know, like formally, like you know like I mean like teachers that like you know like yeah, generally I don't care. Teachers generally I don't really care, you know. And you can blame me to be like ignorant because like 18 years I lived, I never, you know, have like math teachers that were not first sensitive, you know, that were not impatient, that were not annoying, that were not lack of sympathy, that were not intolerant, that were not suck, that were yeah. Basically the list goes on if you want me to like mock them. But anyway, let's go. But it was actually good though. By the way, in this streaming as well, I just want to yap as much as I can because I want to be comfortable in talking. First, because debate requires too much talking, okay? And I just want to articulate myself better by, you know, just talking about something that I think it's interesting and I think it has some meaning. I don't know, maybe. Yeah, it's just for my practice. It's just for my, you know, it's just for me to feel comfortable. That's all. So the next one is mechanism, right? Um, Mechanism includes model. Model includes scope. So if I'm not mistaken, model is about the you know like the model, like the prototype. If you want to launch something, if you want to like launch for example an event, you know, I'm not um reading this, so I'm trying to explaining by my own words. Okay, just like an creating an event. Model in the bed is like creating an event. So when you're creating an event, you have to think first like what kind of event is this, okay? And then how is this event gonna work, and who are the target audience, and where this event is going to take place, right? So basically, a model is just like that, you know, like how things work in what condition, and in model it includes, you know, like scope, metric, if I'm not mistaken, and then framing as well. So yeah, let's double check that. Collective problem is a new insight that I think it is interesting as well. I will get into that later. Creative. Oh, collective. What? Collective problem? Collective action problem. Okay, so what is model? Who does what? Okay. How is it done? Okay. To what extent or under what conditions? You know, under what condition this thing can be done? Under um, to what extent this thing can be done? Especially important when the motion implies a policy, regulation, or institutional change. So this also self-meat. Model the government bans commercial meat sales nationwide. Okay, so here, so who who is going to do the banning? Okay, so this house would ban the sell meat. Who is gonna ban the ban? Who is gonna ban? Who, who is gonna do the banning sell of meat? Okay, so the government, right? Okay, I'm the government. I'm gonna ban that shit. Okay, ban the meat. Um, but how is it gonna? How are you going to ban this? Okay, so I'm going to ban this. I'm going to ban meat sales in nationwide. Okay, in nationwide, effective in 2 years. I don't know what does that mean. Like effective in 2 years. Like I don't know. Effective is I don't know. So enforcement is through food regulators. Okay, so the food is gonna be regulated by I don't know by who. Yeah, you can add that. But there's an exceptions. Okay, this can be word. There's an ex. There are exceptions for this. Okay, for indigenous communities and medical exemptions. That's model. That's interesting. Okay. Um, I want to know like what the fuck is this shit like? Effective 2 years. Wait, hold on. Where is it? Effective in 2 years. What does it mean by effective in 2 years? By the way, I just this is my new pen. It is from Pilot. Oh, Chinese brand. I think it is cool. It is like a snowman, but it's like snowman like the like the snowman ink, snowman drawing pen. You know, my dad used to have that, and it lasts very long. You know, that pen. You know, the snowman. I think this is like the like the what is kawe in English? The rip off, of snowman, but it's actually quite good though. I have this size 1, which is fair. It makes my writing more neat and more because of it's really thin. Okay, so what is it? In the debate, when teams say effective in 2 years, they have specifying implementation, meaning the policy will come into force 2 years after it's passed or announced, meaning the policy will come into force. What? Need time to redesign, avoid backlash, a sudden change might provoke resistance. Okay, the policy will be effective in 2 years. Companies have 2 years to comply. Oh, okay, so the states gives time for logistical. Okay, okay, that's cool. And it can be debated as well, though. Can argue this makes GovBench can argue this makes the policy more palatable and realistic. A bench may argue that delay weakens urgency or gives companies time to lobby against it. It's interesting. Yeah, it is still debatable. I have like a subtle thought that this can be like um place time setting. What is it like invalid definition? You know, like plus like a time restriction, but it is actually not. I remember this. Where's it? So right here. So saying we will allow a 2-year transition period for business to adapt the purpose is legitimate, whereas saying we believe this policy should eventually be implemented, perhaps in 1 or 2 decades, once country have fully harmonized to its requirement, is not legitimate. I don't know why. Because it can be debated, I guess. Wait, hold on. Is legitimate, whereas saying this policy should eventually be implemented. No, 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 no. I mean like no, like there is no urgency at all. Like this is like what the fuck, man. So why do we debate it right now if you want to like um implement the motion like in 1 or 2 decades? Perhaps. There is no reason for this. I don't know why. Additionally, honors the motion specified particularly. It is best for the opening government to define the debates as being. Yeah, there's no like clear. Okay, so um yeah. So let's move on. Okay, so we already know like the model, like the scope. The model includes the scope. What was it? So the model, so the scope is like in the example that AI has given is like in the nationwide. So in here, there's the scope. Here's the scope. So there's a POI. The I think it's from the opposition said that does this also apply to ethically farmed meat? And then he said, and then the PM said any type of products. He said like very clearly that any type of products that involves like killing or harming animals um, are applied. You know, so this is a scope. The scope is like any type of products that involves killing and harming animals. And then it's interesting. Um, so mechanism. Oh, so model info includes in. So mechanism includes model. Okay, model is included in mechanism. Okay, so the PM emphasized the problem once again. Like we want people to think that killing animals, even for food, is a moral choice. We're not gonna control people. This very good defense here. I think it is counted as preempt as well. So just in case the opposition will say that, oh, you're controlling these people, you can't do that. We live in a democratic um, state, and we should have a democratic consent. So PM said that we want people to think that killing animals, even for food, is a moral choice. We're not gonna control people to choose something, but we give them options. So democratic consent is rich if people believe in the ideal ideal that we are proposing. It's really interesting. And then he went into the 4 things. I don't know what are these 4 things, but I think it is the That is the mechanism as well. um, that is the mechanism. The first thing is feeling of positive social identity. It is whenever um, I think this is like he explains like how how human works, like like he said that everyone wants to feel good about his action. Like, I want to be a good human being. I want to be a good human being. Like, human deep down wants to to be a good human being. He said an example that even Al Capone wants to make people smile. So so regarding to that, if we impose a moral choice, if we impose moral choice, meaning that if we apply this motion, if we implement this motion, it will create a moral choice to the society, and it will lead to a society where uh, will they will pick the right choice. So the right choice, yeah. I just wrote it like that. I don't know if he describes like more. I think it is need to be explained more. Um, but he moves into the second thing. Uh, yeah, the second thing is collective action problem. This is actually interesting. I just know it. Like, this is like, I just know, like, there's a name for this. Where where um where a person think that his um when a person that has responsibility to participate because he was in a group or in a collective, or for example in a country, for example, like um civil civilian, like a civilian who supposed to like vote during the election, but he just think that, oh, um I don't want to vote. Like, I don't think um my vote will be like will be significant because I'm just a drop off. I'm just a what is it, a droplet in the I'm just a droplet in the ocean. Like, so yeah, this is a collective action problem where um like there are a group of people that don't you know participate just because of the belief that uh, my action is not really that significant, so why not? So yeah, it's interesting that he bring this. It's really good. I mean, like, I know that animals are dying. I want to be a vegan, vegetarian, but knowing that no one's actually does that but me, it won't make any difference. So why do something? Why make your heart? Why make yourself like hard by not eating meat? You know, you know it doesn't really, it's not really significant because anyway the food production, like, is still making profit, is still it's still okay, so there's no like significant difference. So this is the problem, right? So how do we change this? um it's interesting. So here it comes. Like, here it comes, this structure. um So he got problem. Okay, he give mechanism. So first is feeling of positive social identity, right? I want to be good human being. I want to be good. Everyone wants to feel good about his actions. I want to be good human being. If we impose the moral choice mechanism, it will lead to you know society pick the right choice. Because deep down, essentially, inherently, humans want to do the right thing. They don't want to hurt others, etc. So yeah, he used this kind of structure. um, and then and he used it very I don't know, like concise. Whereas my usage more like very like too much, but it doesn't have any like in-depth explanation. It's just I just feel like my arguments are still on the surface. So for example, this is like the problem, mechanism, and impact in one page, you know. While this one is only take this space, like that's crazy. And okay, so let's compare it in terms of the problem, mechanism, and the impact that I have written. So, well, maybe because why does it feel like so rigid and so like awkward? Maybe because I I'm not really I wasn't really used to it. So the problem that I bring here, that harm kill animals is essentially immoral because they can feel pain. Yeah, then people are discriminative towards animal well-being in general. Like, this is crazy. I don't know why I include this, but it's not a really good argument, because if you say people are discriminative towards animal well-being by mean that um for example, like people that have pets, they only care about their pets and don't care about the animals that are being killed in farm. Just like saying that, um, just like saying, hey, your brother, your brother living good. Well, there's like other people. Wait, hold on. It's like saying to like random people like that have brother, like, hey, your brothers are living good. You know, there's in Africa, you know, um, person like you have brother, and the whole his whole family are suffering. Like, so it doesn't like, like it's not really that good. It's also stupid. So like next to the mechanism that I bring here, the mechanism is like, okay, consumer will have, if this motion is implemented, consumer will have second thought before they buy product, because intuitively people will feel empathy towards the animal that are harmed in any way, whether the consumption or, like I'll give it example like cosmetic, in monkey, cosmetic um like cosmetic product there that are using um that uses animals to like do the study to make that cosmetic, you know and then food like chicken farm, etc. The result that people are likely to avoid this kind of product immediately, because, and then I also includes the preamble, like animals don't have goals complex. It is really really rigid actually, and while this one is really concise, and it also provides multiple problems, mechanisms, and impacts. That's why it is very easy to to include like preempt also for each set of problem, mechanisms, and impact. I don't know how to refer to that, like the set of set of arguments. Yeah. Yes. So the second is collective action problem. Where are we? um, Knowing that no one actually does that. Yeah. um, yes. What is it? On the grand scale, I'm just a drop in the ocean. So here we go, it's a mechanism. So that was a problem. Oh, my choice, like, to be a vegan is not really significant, to the to, to the whole, and to even to even one cow, you know, that are being killed, that is being killed, you know. So how do we change this? This policy is everywhere. It is on. This policy is if the motion is implemented, the policy will be everywhere. It will be in public discourse. It will be on your favorite convenience store. If I want to make this small choice, it can make a difference, you know. That's the mechanism. Interesting. So the next mechanism, I haven't written this, so let's watch the third argument.
We don't care about the image that gets presented to you is that a lot of people now is making this moral choice as well as you. So you get to believe that perhaps this is not a lost cause because now it is much.
It is not a lost cause for real. What is lost cause? Lost cause is something that cannot be achieved.
Presented to you the ocean. Now how do we change this by closing this policy? Now, Mr. Speaker, you have these images all over the place. Now it isn't a public discourse. Now it is in your local convenience store. Now it is everywhere. And if you want to make these small choices, no thank you, then you know that you can make a difference because the image that gets presented to you is that a lot of people now is making this small choice as well as you. So you get to believe that perhaps this is not a lost cause because now it is much more present. But more importantly, thirdly, when we go care about issues like global warming. But more importantly, thirdly, when we don't care about issues like global warming is not thinking is because another reason for that is basically we don't believe that they're like real victims.
Oh yeah, this is also, I think, yeah, as you said before, the second arguments and the third arguments is parallel. Okay, fuck. How can I parallel? How can I pronounce that? Parallel. Wait, what? Parallel. Wait, hold on.
Parallel.
Parallel. If two or more lines, streets, etc. are parallel, the distance between them is the same. The distance between them is the same along their length. Like it's the same, like it aligns, and then like. Something like that. It's, you know, two more lines. The distance between them is the same along their line. What do you mean the distance? Sometimes similar to another one. Parallel example. Okay, similar. You bet. Okay, cool. This is a good alternative to say align, because align and similar and no. Align. So put two or more things into a straight line or to form a straight line. Align the ruler and the middle of the paper. Okay, I got you. Oh, 45 minutes already. Cool. You know, we only started. Cool.
And even another reason for that is basically we don't believe that they're like real victims, right? And even if the reason don't care about issues like global warming is, no thank you, is because another reason for that is basically we don't believe that they're like real victims, right? And even if they are, they're pretty much far away from us. We see that now people will become aware of the fact that these victims exist and they will be able, due to these images, to have some sort of emotional connection with these living beings. And even if they are, they're pretty much far away from us. We see that now people will become aware of the fact that these victims exist and they will be able, due to these images, to have some sort of emotional connection with these living beings. That is something that is like utterly natural and instinctive. So we believe that they will be victims. And even if they are, they're pretty much far away from us. We see that now people will become aware of the fact that these we don't believe that they're like real victims. And even if they are, they're pretty much far away from us. We see that now people will become aware of the fact that these victims exist and they will be able, due to these images, to have some sort of emotional connection with these living beings. That is something that is like utterly natural and instinctive. So we believe that
Utterly natural and distinctive. Wait, hold on. Distinctive is like similar to different, and utterly is like a completely, altogether, something like that. Completely, extremely. What an utterly, extremely, completely. And what's distinctive? Is distinctive like different in this context? Something that is distinctive is easy to recognize because it is different. Oh, it's not like it's different, but it is easy to recognize because it is different. I am distinctive, then is it too? I don't know. Every time I do like just I walk like regularly, like every day, like on a street, on a sidewalk. I mean, um, I just feel like distinctive. You know, I feel like I'm just different. You know, and no, I feel like distinctive. You know, because I don't know. I just feel like distinctive. I just feel like I'm different than everybody else. You know, it is not I'm proud of anything. Like it's uncomfortable. I don't know. Like maybe because of my face is it's not like common in this city. I don't know because it's kind of like Sudanese face. I guess I don't know. That's what I believe so far though. Easy to recognize because because it is different. Distinctive.
now people will become aware of the fact that these victims exist and they will be able, due to these images, to have some sort of emotional connection with these living beings. That is something that is like utterly natural and instinctive. So we believe that they will be able to identify with this pain and this is something that is very important. No thank you. But another point here, which we think is rather important, my fourth point is basically that the consequences here, which we think is rather important, my fourth point is basically that the consequences of their actions are far away from these people.
What? their
The
consequences.
consequences of their actions are far away from these people. We want these consequences to be in front of their faces. So they're
Okay, okay. I notice like very clear the structure already that he present the way he present his argument, like okay, the problem first and then the mechanism and then the impact. And it is very short actually, like not each arguments have different like timing, you know. There's like some arguments are explained in detail, some are not, because um, it just relates, you know, like for example, like the second argument, he explains it in details, and in the third arguments, because the third argument, he said that it parallels with the second argument, so like it's just have to, like, you know, it's short. We don't care about issues like global warming if there is no victim. If they are, they are far away. Due to this image, there's no emotional connection. The impact.
pretty much aware. We want these consequences to be in front of their faces, far away from these people. It's basically, but another point here, which we think is rather important, my fourth point, is basically that the consequences of their actions are far away from these people.
Consequences of their actions. Consequences of their actions are far away from these people, you know. Animals being killed. The consequences are far away, you know, are even hidden, you know. Can of meat has a can of meat in the status quo has, you know, very healthy, happy cows, but behind that there's like cruelty. Okay, eggs, you know, the level has just a regular chicken. Imagine if there's a bloody, you know, imagine if the label shows the process of how the chickens lived in very dirty, small cage, very overcrowded, can't even breathe, um, very humid, and then the bag, and then in the bag, and then in the other, you know, side of the packaging, it shows how this how these chicken are being killed, like for example with a machine, like brutally, and some of them are not even dead yet. They're just like being chopped, the wings or anything. That's cruelty, right? That's crazy. So like, yeah, connection. Okay, consequence of their action.
these consequences to be in front of their faces. So they are pretty much aware that the choice they make these consequences to be in front of their faces. So they are pretty much aware that the choice they are making is not only immoral and is not only harmful, but creates real life consequences. And what will this mechanism work, especially in terms of animals? No, thank you. Here's why. Their faces. So they are pretty much aware that the choice they are making is not only immoral and is not only harmful, but creates real life consequences. And what will this mechanism work, especially in terms of animals? No, thank you. Here's why. Because we have a huge contradiction where people communicate with animals, no life consequences. And what will this mechanism work, especially in terms of animals? No, thank you. Here's why. Because we have a huge contradiction where people communicate with animals. We have a huge contradiction of how we respect our animals. We love our pets, right? We think that pets are basically family. Everyone who has a pet will say this. Moreover, we believe that we will communicate positively with many once you get like a piece of meat in front of you, you get detached from the consequences of this choice. Another example, which will maybe clarify this a bit further, is when people don't want to eat. Another example, which will maybe clarify this a bit further.
Oh, here we go. This is the example. The example of what? I don't know. The example of hypocrisy?
Everyone who has a background for people communicating
Oh, contradiction.
life consequences. And why would this mechanism work, especially in terms of animals? No, thank you. Here's why. Because we have a huge contradiction when people communicate in animals. We have a huge contradiction of how we respect our animals. We love our pets, right? We think that pets are basically family. Everyone who has a pet will say this. Moreover, we believe that we will communicate.
I don't know what famine is. Holy shit. Situation in which there is not enough food for a great number. What?
Respect them. We even like them. But when it comes to food, once you get like a piece of meat in front of you, you get detached from the consequences of this choice. Another example, which will maybe clarify this a bit further, is when people don't want to eat a fish if it has a head. It means that people become aware that it was a living being that had a head, and it had a consciousness, and it had like a meaningful life in some terms, right? And now that basically gets is when this choice. Another example, moreover, we believe in contradictions of how huge contradictions work, especially in terms of having real life consequences. And why would this mechanism work, especially in terms of animals? No, thank you. Here's why. Because we have a huge contradiction when people communicate in animals. We have a huge contradiction of how we respect our animals. We love our pets, right? We have a huge contradiction of how we respect our animals. We love our pets, right? We think that pets are basically family. Everyone who has a pet will say this. Moreover, we believe pets are basically family. Everyone who has a pet will say this. Moreover, we believe that we will communicate positively with many animals which are not our pets, which are wild animals. We respect them. We even like them. But when it comes to food, once you get like a piece of meat in front of you, you get detached from the consequences of this choice. Another example, which will maybe clarify this a bit further, is when people don't want to eat a fish if it has a head. It means that people become aware that it was a living being that had a head, and it had a consciousness, and it had like a meaningful life. People don't want to. Another example, piece of meat in front of you, we even like them. But when it comes to food, once you get like a piece of meat in front of you, you get detached from the consequences of this choice. Another example, which will maybe clarify this a bit further, is when people don't want to eat a fish if it has a head. It means that people become aware that it was a living being that had a head, and it had a consciousness, and it had like a meaningful life in some terms, right? And now that basically gets devoid of all that because I want to eat food as a head. This a bit further is when people don't want to eat a fish if it has a head. It means that people become aware that it was a living being that had a head, and it had a consciousness, and it had like a meaningful life in some terms, right? And now that basically gets devoid of all that, you don't eat a fish if it has a head. It means that people become aware that it was a living being that had a when we will be. Here's why PETA extremism and these images will be
What the fuck is PETA extremism?
Off of this like bad ways of fighting this God when we impose these things. Now, we see that these extremist images, extremist ways in which people try to will be here's more. Now, lastly, and that is something that probably will be unexpectedly known in this debate, here's why PETA extremism and these images will be less off of this like bad ways of fighting this God when we impose these things. Now, we see that these extremist images, extremist ways in which people try to comes from the fact that we're frustrated and that nobody cares about this moment for the reasons I've explained eloquently, hopefully. But the thing is that now you don't have the same incentive to be as regime because you have a much more meaningful strategy. More on that way. But for all these reasons, we beg you to impose something that will be an informed moral choice of human beings. Thank you.
Holy shit. Okay, that's interesting. Examples in the human's contradiction as a point. It's also
will be a disproportionate, but also they will make it a moral thing to do because that is something peaceful. Now we know that people will not only choose this as devoid of all that in some terms that had a head and it had a consciousness and it had like a meaningful life in some terms, right? And now that basically gets devoid of all that because I want to eat food. Now we know that people will not only choose this because it's a moral thing.
So like, or without something that's necessarily useful.
Because that's why I want to eat food. Now we know that people will not only choose this because it's a moral thing to do, because that's something that will make them feel good about themselves, but also choose this because it's a moral thing to do, because that's something that will make them feel good about themselves. And have like a meaningful life in some terms, right? And now that basically gets devoid of all that because I want to eat food. Now we know that people will not only choose this because it's a moral thing to do, because that's something that will make them feel good about themselves, but also they will make this choice because it's going to be a rather easy one that will make them feel good about themselves, but choose this because it's a moral thing to do, because that's something that will cool. Now we know that people will not only choose this because it's a moral thing to do, because that's something that will make them feel good about themselves, but also they will make this choice because it's going to be a rather easy one. How so? Because they will just evaluate preferences. They're going to say, okay, is it fair for me to just, but also they will make this moral thing to do, because that's something equal. Now we know that people will not only choose this because it's a moral thing to do, because that's something that will make them feel good about themselves, but also they will make this choice because it's going to be a rather easy one. How so? Because they will just evaluate preferences. They're going to say, okay, is it fair for me to just be a little bit more happy and eat this meat if there's like a disproportionate being on another being which I can empathize with for them. We believe that people, because it's very clear moral. Will go on ours. We think that's very important. Now, lastly, and that is something that probably will be unexpectedly known in this debate, here's why PETA extremism and these images will be less off of this like bad ways of fighting this cause when we impose these things. Now, we see that these extremist images, extremist ways in which people try to make things, comes from the fact that much more meaningful strategy. More on that later. But for all these reasons, we beg you to impose something that will be an informed moral choice of human beings. Thank you.
Here we go, our second speaker. I love this. I love her arguments. I love how she presents her speech. So we'll get into that later. It's pretty good. If I compare my arguments to the PM's argument is far, because in my arguments I only have one set of arguments, and it's not really that in-depth either. So fuck this shit. Whilst the PM's argument has 4 arguments, and I think 2 of them have in-depth analysis, cool, and also very good opening. It has counterfactual, it has okay characterization, 2 claims to start. I think I'm going to use this like as a template, probably. So we're going to take a break for a while, I guess, and then we're going to make an argument for the second speech. For the opening opposition. First speaker of opening opposition. 9 minutes? Holy shit, man. Ah. Nah. I don't know what the fuck am I doing. Like, I cannot see my fucking chat though, like. That's crazy. Still live, right? The fuck, what is this? The thumbnail is different though. It's 10 now, what the fuck? I feel like it's still early. Okay, I think that's all for the break. Shit, I should have, you know, like, done some push-up or whatever though. Wait, ah, fuck. I just want to sleep, bro. I just want to fucking sleep. But okay, let's do the LO speech. To prepare my I need to prepare 15 minutes and add 7 minutes. So I'm going to, after 15 minutes has passed, I'm going to watch the PM speech again and start, you know, rebutting some shit. If you know what I mean. This is gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough, but. And I also feel like I have the obligation. I have obligations to make myself exposed to other, you know, to get other exposure instead of like just stick into this particular motion, because you know I'm a, oh shit, wait, hold on. Okay. Because I'm afraid that I won't understand like the other topic. Never be afraid. Are doing this? I will never be afraid for not doing anything else. So I'm going to use the same structure. The opening has claims first, and then characterization, If you want to add counterfactual, that's good. And then the mechanism includes the model and the scope. Um, so I think the scope should be like in the problem. I think I don't know. Yeah, the scope should be in the problem in the opening. Okay. How am I going to rebut this? Hold on. Okay, I'm kind of stressed out right now. It feels stressed out. I feel stressed out because I'm about to start my argument from scratch and I'm about to compete with these guys and shit and I'm not confident. Okay, but that's okay. Just have to acknowledge it. Um, where is it? Where's the this one? Okay, so if you were watching, prepare 15 minutes. Okay, after PM or LO. Topic weakness, yes, there is topic weakness. First, counterfactual. I don't know how. I forget to. I think counterfactual is important. Um, collective action problem. Feeling of positive social identity. Social identity. Everyone wants to feel good about his or her action. If deputy give DPM, if you deputy give the DPM TLO, if you're in a round. This is a lot of work, man. This is a lot of work. And I'm lazy right now to start, and I'm also afraid. And I know that my argument will be shitty, you know, because of that. Fuck. Shit. I'm wasting my time, I know.
I don't even know what I'm making right now. Recently, what I've learned, just keep layering things until you get like a result that you like. I was recently making some beats with like my friend Shannon, who actually like helped me realize this. We made this one beat together, and we just kept stacking sounds, just not even like really thinking about it at all. Eventually, we just end up once we got to the arrangement, we just started taking things out, and then it just started to make sense. I think a lot of the time, perfectionist kind of mindset can often delay us from coming up with any sort of outcome whatsoever. And I've really been struggling with that over the past.
Is it crazy that I am inspired to do my prep immediately after I watch Jimmy's video. He's a beat making YouTuber. He said that it's cliche, but he exemplified that clichéness with very related experience. Like said that perfectionist delays your what? Wait, hold on.
Perfectionist kind of mindset can often delay us from coming up with any sort of outcome whatsoever.
Perfectionist mindset can kind of delay us to any sort of outcome.
I've really been struck. I think a lot of the time, perfectionist kind of mindset can often delay us from coming up with any sort of outcome whatsoever.
Oh yeah, perfectionist mindset can sometimes delay us for coming up with any sort of outcomes. And shit, yeah, that was true, man. That is true. That is true. Holy shit, yeah. I have to start the prep time, alright. I don't want to make beat right now, even though I watched that. Well, I want to implement it into my beat making process though, but I'm more interested in prepping the bait. Okay, prep for the bait. I mean, my English is still kind of like shitty, you know, to be honest. So yeah. Alright, this house would ban companies to place images of animals. Okay, I think I'm going to start. I think I'm going to like in this book instead, you know, because this is my argument stuff. So going to prep. You have to be against it. Okay. Banning images of, you know, no. I mean, require companies to place images of animal suffering is going to, it's not going to be effective. It's gonna desynthesize and normalize animal suffering. Now, yeah, I mean, require companies. Wait, hold on. It's gonna be desynthesizing us, normalizing animal suffering, and I don't know what to start. I don't know what to start as a LO. Fuck me. Yeah, fuck you. Okay, let's just watch it. I'm examining the you know, this individual's gesture, like, oh shit, oh you're gonna flip that, oh what's that for, oh what are you jotting down, what are you jotting? This is very careful. 3 points today: by killing animals is not necessarily
setting up laws actually stop people from eating animals, but just desensitize them and normalize animal suffering. Third
is legitimacy for the cause.
The long run by doing so. First, a few points of rebuttal to the earlier speaker. The case that they raised is saying we generally think it's bad that animals are taught to the earlier speaker for the device that been normal. Second, will this actually stop people from eating animals or will just desensitize them and normalize animal suffering? Third point, how this loses legitimacy for the cause of animal fighting in the long run by doing so. First, how this loses legitimacy for the cause.
The quality of being legal versus legitimacy for the cause of animal fighting? What the fuck is that shit?
Of animal fighting in the long run by doing so.
Animal fighting?
How this loses legitimacy.
I gotta ask. What does it mean by shit? Mm. Manipulation for what? I mean, I don't get it. Why do you have to manipulate? For what? Disengage. What? Wait, hold on. Okay. Let's engage.
Third point, how this loses legitimacy for the cause of animal fighting in the long run by doing so. First, a few points of rebuttal to the earlier speaker. The case I think is saying we generally think it's bad that animals are tortured and humiliated, etc. We generally agree with that, but we have to assume that this debate is playing out in the concept of Western liberal democracy.
Western liberal democracy? The fuck is this shit, man?
Obviously, with all rules and laws against torture and all of this already. So those harms and the betrayal that they paint of how we treat animals is necessarily already evident. So those harms and the betrayal that they paint of how we treat animals is necessarily already dictated and governed by law. And that's the cases that we should be discussing. What we also try to say on the other side is patterns out of the of information is that the differences in meat production in itself, which they will not account for in the policy that they put forward. The fact that it's organically farmed meat, the fact that you cannot keep chickens in cages when you put hens out there anymore, you laying eggs, I guess you say in English. That's the way we put it. That causes a lot of harm, but they wouldn't in any way in their policy distinguish between the difference of sufferings that they would bring about in the policy. One clarification on that is at this point you're categorizing them all and not taking in the full nuance of how animal production takes part. Okay, so here from the earlier speakers, animals feel pain, they feel love, they feel connection, and this is harmed by industrial farming. Okay, well our response to that is we're saying, okay, reducing the pain that already happens, but we're saying in your policy it will happen even more. But our general line is killing itself of an animal is not a necessarily moral act. It's the harming of an animal during the point which is still alive. That's when immorality takes place. And your case does not deal with that actual harm, which is based on the immoral tag on the actual killing. The immorality is the harm. That's when immorality takes place. And your case does not deal with that actual harm, which is based on the immoral tag on the actual. Does not deal with that actual harm, which is based on the immoral tag on the actual killing. The immorality is the harm that you put to them in the actual case. What we're bringing today on the opposition side is generally show that your policy, which is enforce the harms during the actual life and not reduce them, and reduce the general fighting to improve the lives of these animals during the actual living. Two premises in the entire case. One is that people already don't know that animals suffer, but if they were ever given any information that they would react on it and necessarily stop eating meat. What I'm going to go through today is why it would necessarily be the case. Because first, why not all meat consumption is bad and all killing animals are bad? We're generally saying here, as Peter Singer's idea of ethics, that it's not necessarily harmful to kill a being. It's not necessarily harmful in the act of killing. It's only if you deprive that creature or that being of the possibility to shape the future or shape goals to kill a being. It's not necessarily harmful in the act of killing. It's only if you deprive that creature or that being of the possibility to shape the future or shape goals or take away the possibility of shaping the actual ideas. What we see with the most animals, yes, they have an impression of reality. They do interpret that reality, but they do not shape goals or complex ideas or interaction patterns in the same way in the long run. So not necessarily taking anything away from them in the act of killing. What we do recognize though is a case of government saying that they do feel pain, they do feel harm, they do feel other things in real life. We recognize that. But necessarily happen. What we're saying right now is what would happen if people generally see a sign of a suffering animal on a can of meat or package of meat. Okay, I think first, most people know that animals are industrially farmed, but let's assume they don't know. So this would be a revelation one. They just find out like, oh, animals are actually suffering in order for me to get food. What will happen in that case? We're saying some people might be outraged at the first step, that's pretty sure. But we've seen many things where people do get outraged. When they see pictures of famine, when they see pictures of war, when they see pictures of brutal rape in war zones, people are a bit outraged. But does that necessarily lead to engagement? That's a mechanism that the Open God has not tried to resist. People might, to a certain degree, be outraged. Some of them might not buy. But we do say that a great shepherd will not translate that into action as we've seen in other cases in real life. What we need, though, is more powerful in the long run, that we normalize the idea of animal suffering. It becomes this thing that's just a constant presence in your surroundings. Every time you go into a shop, you just generally see that it's suffering there, and it becomes a normalized image just as we do in other cases. What do we think is problematic with this then? First, the their cases even account for the complexity of how different levels of suffering take place. If you locked your chicken into a cage, never let it out at any time, the more eggs be fed steroids and antibiotics, or you organically farm the chicken on the other sense. So even if they would react, assume the best interpretation of open the law, we don't necessarily know that they would react in the case of taking on the best conservatory patterns after that. They might react in the long run, we haven't seen the mechanism, but even if they continue on, we don't know if the consumption would be steered in a positive direction, as you do not yourself even provide the option for them in the best case that you can make an interpretation of what you do. But even if it is not, what do we generally think would happen in the long run? Maybe that if you decide to stop, that decision is to be subject to rational reason, not by being guilt-tripped into taking a decision and forced upon it. I hate to do a backlash argument, but I'm about to stop this one. What do we generally see? People have strong cultural patterns to their food, to their behaviors, and to decision and force upon it. I hate to do a backlash argument, but I'm about to stop this one. What do we generally see? People have strong cultural patterns to their food, to their behaviors, and to adapt and ingrained in reconfiguration. We eat meat. For example, we do think if you apply that as a thing, I'm going to moralize every time you want to have something to eat, which you generally enjoy, because it's generally nutritious for you. So you should feel that. I do believe a lot of people would react and would not take that positive. I'll take closing.
Do you agree that labels on cigarettes, presenting, for example, dead fetuses or things because of disposable abortions or things like that, do cause people to enjoy cigarettes less?
I think if you enjoy the taste of cigarettes, then you probably enjoy them equally much. So people might be outraged the first time they come out, and then they get over it, and people still smoke as much after the implementation of those as before. So yeah. Okay, but generally, backlash. So what happens? We generally believe that people have strong cultural ties to the food. As nutritionists, it's generally reasonable to eat a certain amount of meat. If you feel that this is being pushed upon you, that you have been moralized to be told that you're a bad person, I think a lot of people would naturally just consume more. They wouldn't stop eating meat to any degree in any sense. And they feel to certainly de-align from the movement and working for animal conditions. They see them as these moralizing institutions that are not connected to reality. They're trying to push their own morality upon them. What this generally means is that people are less likely to engage in this movement. What this generally means in a practical aspect, if you have less movement lobbying for animal rights, that means that there will still be industrial reform. The harm that we say is the actual problem will continue to the same degree. And even if it's about a metric of stopping to kill, you haven't provided the mechanism of when that will happen, and therefore we're very happy to do this.
Oh shit. That's it. Like, that is too fast.
Will continue to the same degree. And even if it's about a metric of stopping to kill, you haven't provided the
Like, the problem is that they put like the mic close to the audience instead of close to the speaker. Just the claps too loud. Alright, that's great, but I can understand. I cannot understand some of the. Wait, I think I'm going to jot it down now. To as
3 points today.
3 points today by killing animals is not morally wrong.
animals is not necessarily
It's
moral.
not necessarily moral and
Second, will this actually stop people
it's
from
actually
eating animals, it will just desensitize them and normalize animal suffering. Third point, how this loses legitimacy for the cause of animal
backlash
rights.
argument.
you struggling with that over the past couple of weeks?
Let's save your life today, not long term. Today, by specifically finding out what's most likely to kill you. For a fall from 5 meters, the height of a large ladder, the equivalent would be the energy of a bombing or dropping from a 19-story building. But even just falling over can easily be fatal because your head is all the way at the top of your body. Another surprisingly dangerous thing is water. What if you're drowning next week? Being underground water is fun, but doesn't seem to be a big deal, mainly for three reasons. You'll underestimate how dangerous a body of water is and be taken by strong currents or riptides. You'll overestimate your swimming abilities. You're most likely a much worse swimmer than you think. Or, also sadly common, you'll go into the water drunk, especially dangerous because you're reckless and even more likely to be overwhelmed by a cold shock or hypothermia. Harmless situations around water turn deadly so quickly that in the US, drowning is the second most common cause of death by accident for kids, after, you may have guessed it, car crashes. So if you're going for a swim next week, keep this in mind. Make sure the water is safe, assume you are a better than mediocre swimmer, and you are done. Also,
To the stigmas of Australia. Tip 7.
Probably want to stop.